Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to set up OTP verification in a NodeJS application. One-time password is one of the ways you can verify user account details such as mobile phone numbers and email addresses. At the end of this video, you will learn how to set up OTP verification in a Node.js application, and you will have a full functional OTP verification system. We will build on a Node.js authentication application that was built in the last video, linked in the description below and somewhere up here. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this, and also leave your views in the comment section because I will be attending to them. Thank you. The first step of creating an OTP verification system in a NodeJS application is to create a model. This model will act as a representation of the dataset for the OTP verification that will be stored in the database. In the authentication video, we created the models folder, and inside this folder we added the user model.js file that contains the dataset for the authentication system. So in this video, we will add an OTP verification.js file to the models folder, and inside this file we will add the OTP verification model. We will use Mongoose to create the OTP verification schema, so we just have to import it. In the authentication video, we already installed the Mongoose package, so all we have to do now is to import it into the OTP verification.js file. After importing the Mongoose package, we have to create a schema variable for the OTP verification. We will use this schema variable to create the OTP verification schema object. The OTP verification schema will have a few properties that will define the dataset for the OTP verification. The first property of the OTP verification schema is the user ID. This is the auto-generated ID from the database that is assigned to the user, and it will be of type string. The second property will be the OTP. This is actually the one-time password that we are going to generate in our application, and it will also be of type string. The third property will be the created at property. This is the time when the OTP was generated, and it will be of type date. The fourth property will be the expires at property. This is because we don't want the OTP to last forever. So we have to assign an expired add property to it, and it will be of type date as well. After creating the properties that define the dataset for the OTP verification schema, we will now use Mongoose to create the OTP verification module. Lastly, we will export this model from the OTP verification.js file so that we will be able to use it in other parts of the application. After creating and exporting the OTP verification model from the OTP verification.js file, the next step is to create a function that will send the OTP to the user via the user email address. In the authentication video, we created an API folder, and inside that folder we have the sign-in route and the sign-up route. Inside the signup.js file, we set up the logic for creating an account for a first-time user. Since we are going to send OTP verification email to the user immediately they sign up, we are going to create this send OTP function inside the sign up route. This function is going to be an async function because we'll be making asynchronous request in a try and catch block. Inside the try block, the first thing you will do is to generate the OTP and store it in a variable called OTP. OTP has to be a random number of 4 digits. So to achieve this, we use math.random to generate a random number. To make sure that the number generated by math.random is a 4-digit number and not more than 4 digits, we have to multiply math.random by 9,000. This way, we won't have a number higher than 9,999. This calculation might end up giving us a number way below a 4-digit number. It could be something like a 3-digit number. It could be something like 90, which is a 2-digit number. So in order to make sure that we have a 4-digit number, which is a number around the thousands, we have to add 1000 to this calculation. Finally, we have to make sure that our calculation does not give us a decimal figure. So to round up our calculation to give us an integer, we need to wrap the entire calculation with math.flow. After generating the OTP, you have to send it to the user's email address for verification. And to do this, you need to set up a transporter using NodeMailer. NodeMailer is a package from NPM that allows you to set up email notification in NodeJS application. So install it. After installing NodeMailer into your application, import it into the signup.js file. You can now use NodeMailer to create a transporter that will transport the email verification message to the user via their email address. The transporter object will have two properties. The first property, which is the service property, will be the email service provider that you are making use of, and it can be the Gmail service provider or any email service provider of your choice. And then the second property, which is actually an object, will be the auth property, and this property will carry everything that describes the transporter, like the auth user and the auth pass properties. So we are going to create these properties as an environment variable inside the .env file. The .env file was created in the auth application video, and it was used in storing the environment variable for the MongoDB URI. So in this video, we are going to create the auth email environment variable. This is the email address that I'm going to use as my auth email value. But in your case, make sure you use your own email address and make sure you are making use of a real email address, and you have two-factor authentication set up for the email address to get your auth pass. And store it inside the auth pass environment variable. For this value, I'm not going to show it to you. Use the environment variables that you just created in the .env file to create the properties of the auth object. The first property, which is the user property, will be the auth email. So access it by calling process.env and then the variable name, which is auth email. And then the second property, which will be the pass, will be the auth pass variable. So access it as well using process.env dot the variable name, which is auth pass. To gain access to this environment variable in this signup.js file, we have to import .env package. The .env package was installed in the authentication video as well, so import it into the signup.js file. Now verify if the transporter is working perfectly. If there is an error, this means the transporter is not working. So you have to log an error message to the console by doing console.log and calling error. Else, this means the transporter is working perfectly. Therefore, you have to also log a message to the console indicating that the transporter is working perfectly. Now that you have verified that the transporter is working, you can go ahead and create a mail option inside the try block of the send OTP function. The mail options object will carry information about the verification message that you are about to send to the user. The first property is the from property, which is the email address that will be sending the message, and it will have the value of the auth email that was created in the .env file. So you access it by saying process.env.auth email. The second property is the to property, and this is the email address that will be receiving the email verification message. So you have to destructure it alongside the ID. Now your message needs to have a subject body which will tell the user what the message is about. So you have to give your message a subject using the subject property. Lastly, you have to add a message body to your email message, and to do this you can make use of the HTML property. The HTML property lets you make use of HTML tags such as the p tag to create a message body. Before storing the OTP that you generated to the database, you have to hash it, and you do this with the help of the bcrypt package. The first step is to create a sort round variable. This sort round variable will define how complex the hashed OTP will be. So now you can go ahead and hash the OTP by calling the hash function on the bcrypt package. We have already installed the bcrypt package in the authentication video, and also we have imported it into the signup.js file. So you can go ahead and install bcrypt and import it to the signup.js file if you don't have it already. After hashing the OTP, you have to create a new OTP verification record with the OTP verification model. To make use of the OTP verification model inside the signup.js file, you first have to import it. The new OTP verification record will have all the properties that were created inside the OTP verification schema. The first property that will be passed in the new OTP verification record will be the user ID property, and this will have the value of the actual ID that was generated by the database. The second property is the OTP that we just generated, and in this case we'll make use of the hashed OTP as its value. The third property is the created at property, and we'll use the current time, which by calling the date.now function. Lastly, we have to create the expires at property. We want the OTP to expire in 1 hour, so all we have to do is to add the equivalent of 1 hour in milliseconds to the date.now function. That is 3,600,000. You have to save the new OTP verification record that you have just created to the database. After saving the OTP verification record, you have to use the transporter to send the verification message to the user. Then send a response with a status of pending to confirm that the email verification message has been sent to the user. start block, you have to check if there were error while trying to run the send OTP function. So you respond with an error message and a status of failed if there is any error. Inside the sign up route block, we try saving the user data to the database after they have successfully signed up. But before we do that, let us send the OTP verification message first by calling the send OTP function. After sending the OTP, we need to verify it. Create a verify OTP.js file inside the API folder. Inside this file, we will set up the route for the OTP verification. Start by importing Express. We will use Express to set up a router for the verify OTP route. After importing Express, use Express to set up a verify OTP router by calling the Express router function. After creating the verify OTP router, use it to create the verify OTP route. This route will be a post route so that we will be able to make post requests in this route. After creating the route, we have to export it so that we can use it in other parts of the application. Now import the verify OTP router inside the server.js file. initialize the verify OTP route. Create a try and catch block. In the try block, we are going to destructure the user ID and the OTP from the request body. And then we are going to check if any of these parameters are empty. If they are empty, we will respond with an error. If the fields are not empty, then we will create an OTP verification record variable with the OTP verification model that we created earlier, and then use it to check if the user ID actually exists. If the length of the OTP verification record variable is less than or equals to 0, that means the user ID does not exist. So we'll respond with an error as well. if there is an OTP verification record for the provided user ID, then we'll go ahead and check if that OTP verification record has not expired. We'll first of all destructure the expired at property from the OTP verification record. Then check if the expired at property is less than the value of the date.now, which is the current time. If the value of the expired at property is less than the current time, this means the OTP verification record has expired, so we will delete it from the database. We will also delete the record of the user with the expired OTP verification record from the database as well. The user model was created inside the user models.js file in the authentication video, so we are going to import it inside the verify OTP.js file now. If the OTP verification record has not expired, we have to check if the provided OTP is correct. We will do that by comparing the provided OTP with the hashed OTP from the database. So we extract the hashed OTP from the OTP verification record. If the provided OTP does not match the hashed OTP stored in the database, then we will throw an error indicating that the OTP is not valid. Else, we have a valid OTP that matches the hashed OTP stored in the database. So we have to update the user record to show verified. The second parameter we have to add to the update one function is the verified parameter. But before that, let us add it to the new user's record inside the signup.js file and set its value to false. We also have to pass this property to the user schema inside the user model.js file and set its value as a boolean value. Now add the verified property as a second parameter to the update one function and set its value to true. After updating the verified property, we have to delete the OTP verification record for that user from the database. To make sure that only verified users can gain access to our application, we have to set up a mechanism inside the sign-in.js file to prevent non-verified users from gaining access to our application. So in the part where you check if the provided user's email is valid, you have to also check if the provided email is verified.